The VFW Distinguished Service Award recognizes VFW members or citizens for exemplary or extraordinary service to our country through demonstrated actions that promote the spirit of the VFW. Applicants must show how, through their volunteer actions of dedication and commitment to the VFW, the nominee contributed and exemplified the best attributes in service, companionship, and activities to their local community, state, or nation, the attributes that exemplify and define the spirit of a true VFW comrade. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present the 2025 VFW Distinguished Service Award to VFW Post 5202, Commander Major Samantha Cahill. Unfortunately, Major Cahill couldn't join us in person tonight because she is proudly serving our country deployed to Kuwait. I am pleased, however, that she could join us virtually from downrange, as you can see on the big screens.
Oh, hey, how are you?
I will now read her citation and ask her to say a few words after. VFW Distinguished Service Award and Citation, awarded to Major Samantha Cahill, and lasting appreciation and spirited recognition of her exceptional service, dedication, and effort supporting the veterans of foreign wars, her fellow veterans, and her community, spearheading initial relief efforts in the aftermath of Hurricane Helen. Her work ensured VFW Post 5202 remained open and able to provide crucial support to those impacted. She coordinated daily meals for nearly 500 civilians and active Army and National Guard troops, and led volunteer teams to remove debris and help clean up dozens of homes. The commitment she has put forward to bringing public internet access to local towns, raise funds for the community, and help provide transportation to families in need not only contributes positively to those around her, but has helped her Post membership grow, multiplying its positive impact on veterans in North Carolina. Her continued ability to meet the needs of her military, veteran, and local communities is a shining example to all VFW members, and has justly earned her the utmost respect and gratitude of the veterans of foreign wars of the United States. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands in the official seal of the veterans of foreign wars of the United States, this 11th day of August, 2025, approved by the National Council of Administration, signed by Alfred J. Lippert, Commander-in-Chief, and Dan West, Adjutant General. Samantha, bring it on.
Thank you, sir. All right, am I good to go? So my sincere thanks to Commander-in-Chief Lippert and to the veterans of foreign wars of the United States for bestowing this great honor upon me. For what Dan said, my apologies that I'm unable to accept in person, as I'm currently in the Middle East supporting the global war on terrorism with the United States Army. VFW Post, I heard that from over here. VFW Post 5202 is a small post in Waynesville, North Carolina, nestled amid the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Pisgah National Forest, and iconic Blue Ridge Parkway. Many families have lived their lives for generations in this area, and others are transplants who have made this beautiful area in rural Appalachia their home. When I moved to Western North Carolina, one of the first things I did was transfer my membership from the state of Connecticut to that local VFW in Waynesville, North Carolina. I knew these were the people who would understand me the most, my desire for service after service and fellowship with those who experience similar experiences. Becoming the commander of this small but mighty post has been one of the greatest pleasures and one of the most fulfilling leadership positions I've served in. The devastation that hit Western North Carolina on September 27th, 2024 was like nothing we had ever seen before. The damage spread across multiple counties, hitting the areas most prone to flooding and the areas people would have never suspected would be impacted. Homes were carried away or ripped apart. Feet of mud where roads once were, landslides, lives lost, trees and power lines down. There was no water, no electricity, and no cell phone service across the entire Western North Carolina. No way to let loved ones know if you were all right or needed assistance. When the rain stopped and the floodwaters receded, there was unimaginable devastation. It was apocalyptic. In General Douglas MacArthur's 1962 speech at West Point, he famously uttered, "Duty, honor, country." Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying points to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. I wear those three words right here on my right arm in honor of my Spanish heritage. I have them in Spanish, and as an outward showing of the commitment I made when I raised my right hand those 13 years ago. When I was finally able to make my way down to Post 5202, 48 hours after the storm ended, largely because there was a massive landslide on my road that stopped folks from getting in and out. I immediately started getting accountability of our members and rounded up our leadership. The comrades of this post truly embodied those three words from General MacArthur. The first thing they asked me was, what are we going to do to help? You can take the veteran out of the military, but you can't take the military out of the veteran. We instinctively knew, without ever saying it to each other, that we had unique skill sets that we needed to utilize to help our neighbors in their time of need. We rolled up our sleeves and started building a con-op. As a logistician, I knew we needed food, fuel, water, batteries, and a way to communicate. Fortunately, I was surrounded by a strong group of former warrant officers and NCOs, and one of them had already set up his Starlink at the post. So we started sending text messages and making phone calls. The first texts I received were from our Department of North Carolina leadership, asking if we were okay and what we needed. They too knew they had a mission to fulfill and were already staging donations to send out our way. My relief chief, my wife, and I traversed what was left of I-40 and made our way 2+ hours east to the VFW Post in North Wilkesboro, where members were waiting to fill our trailer and truck bed full of critically needed supplies. When the highways into Western North Carolina finally partially reopened, they convoyed to our post with more supplies. A little bit to what Dan said, here are some facts and figures so that you can kind of understand the magnitude of what was accomplished. VFW Post 5202 was the first veterans organization in Haywood County on the ground within 48 hours after the waters receded and opened a flood relief distribution center. We were the first organization in Waynesville, North Carolina to open to the public with internet. We cared for over 1,000 families in Western North Carolina with flood relief supplies and daily deliveries of toiletries, cleaning supplies, and water and food. To Dan's point, we did feed over 500 civilians a day for over 2 weeks. We also fed 180 soldiers of the 101st Airborne who were in the area assisting with the relief efforts. Our members cleaned out 12 homes, ensured that 17 homes received heat that had none, and it was cold during that time, surprisingly enough. They ensured that they cleaned out 12 homes, that 17 homes received heat that had none, provided 31 homes with water that had none. We distributed flood relief supplies, food, and clothing. The clothing was donated generously by Grunt Style Foundation, and we're grateful to VFW National for that connection. And we donated those clothes flood relief food to 11 counties across Western North Carolina, to include the Charles George VA Medical Center in Asheville that took a direct hit from the storm. Our members and volunteers drove hundreds of miles in the process. We held the Helping Haywood fundraiser event and barbecue for the Brave dinner that raised over $6,000 that went directly to assisting flood victims across Haywood County, and we participated in the Rock for Relief Western North Carolina event that raised over $32,000 for local flood victims. We donated $3,000 in cash, handed it right to the people myself, to local families to help them rebuild their homes and lives after the storm. We recognized the need for long-term sustainment efforts and raised money and purchased a 40-foot shipping container to store and distribute supplies. This shipping container was and continues to be used to support the ongoing flood relief efforts. The Connex is also a tool we are able to utilize in the future should another natural disaster strike. Post 5202 remains actively involved in long-term sustainment efforts with other mission partners like Warrior Clan, another local veterans organization in Haywood County, to assist flood victims. Through the generosity of a group of volunteers from Georgia and food donations from local organizations, we held a Thanksgiving dinner that fed over 100 families on Thanksgiving Day, a way to give folks a break and sense of normalcy in a very unsettling time. Through the support of Veterans of Foreign Wars Department of North Carolina, we held the Christmas in the Mountains event at our post, where Santa and his elf distributed toys to hundreds of children across Western North Carolina and handed out Walmart gift cards to local families to supplement their holiday gifts and dinners. People cried. This wasn't a few weeks effort. This was months of nonstop effort, and it still continued. As all officers know, our achievements are not by our acts alone. We lead and are the face of the effort, but our successes are only possible because of the team who stands beside us. I'd like to express my sincerest gratitude to all those who made VFW Post 5202's Hurricane Helen flood relief efforts possible. We had family and friends from all over the country who came to our aid through in-kind and monetary donations. For my family and friends across New England and Eastern North Carolina, who rallied to help us raise money to buy a smoker to feed flood victims, to a Jewish community in Florida who donated a semi-truck full of food, to VFW and American Legion posts across the country who dropped off supplies and sent monetary donations. None of this could have happened without their generous support. I'd like to thank VFW Post 5202 comrades, auxiliary members, and writers group who stepped up even while trying to rebuild and repair their own homes. I'm sure I'm missing folks, but shout outs to my relief chief, Joel Gill, who ran the overall volunteer coordination and veteran support services for the Post. Sarah Lavery, who secured a ton of monetary and in-kind donations for us, to include getting our post to be a meal drop-off location for World Central Kitchen and securing stand-up freezers to store all the food donations we received. Corey Whalen for his back-breaking work clearing debris, Teresa and Jeremy Cochran, Jeremy Minshew, Megan Johnson, Ginger, Jeff, Lil Mama, Wendy Head and John, Chris and Angie Anders, Lois, Jeremiah, Tiffany Snowden, Tom Barrett, John and Terry Snyder, my friends Priscilla and Abel Casillas, Laura McDonald, my mother-in-law Lori, and Tim. We were a force to be reckoned with and did some incredible work serving our community. You truly understood the VFW slogan of still serving. Your blood, sweat, and tears is what made this all possible. Also, thank you to VFW Department of North Carolina, Triple Crown Department Commander Annie Cummings, VFW North Carolina Past Department Commander, and worst of all the cooties, Tim Woods, Jen Hutt, Alicia Judd for her nomination for this award and for being the best elf during the Christmas in the Mountains event, Mickey Biggs, Dolphus Troy, Mike Baker, my VFW mentor and North Carolina District 12 Commander Bobby Sheets for her connection to an interim smoker while ours was being delivered and for her guidance. VFW Quartermaster General Mark Arduino, the VFW Post across North Carolina, South Carolina, Connecticut, Michigan, and Nevada who dropped off supplies and sent donations. VFW Department of New Jersey, Lynn and Karen Toomer from VFW Department of Texas, Western North Carolina Jeepers, Warrior Clan, American Legion Post 200 out of Hampstead, Maryland, Lazy Lab Acres LLC, again, Grunt Style Foundation, Taney Brothers Incorporated, the North Carolina National Guard, and Kershaw County Jeep Club. And a special thank you to the leadership and members of the 915th Contracting Battalion who are watching this live stream stateside. Your check-ins and words of encouragement during that time were noticed and greatly appreciated. From an early age, my dad, Dan Cahill, taught me that it is service above self, that when there is a need, we show up and we lift others up. We would volunteer for whatever nonprofit he managed to get involved with that week that needed assistance. I learned from an early age what it was to be voluntold. I wasn't raised with money, so he taught me that we give our time and sweat equity instead. My dad was pretty ill with dementia and Parkinson's when Hurricane Helen happened. He really didn't grasp what we accomplished, but I know that had he been well, he would have been right next to us, handing out toiletries, serving hot meals, and of course, taking pictures. I told him all about what we did when I visited him after the storm. And in my final FaceTime call, as I said goodbye to him in June, I told him about receiving this award because I knew he would be proud. I wanted to take a moment tonight to thank him, for cultivating my passion to serve and honor him publicly. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank my wife, Nikki, for understanding what drives me and being my rock. She rolled up her sleeves and worked the long hours, shoveling mud out of homes in Clyde, dropping off hot meals, and coordinating cleanup crews. She truly understands selfless service and was just as ready to help the community as I was. We didn't see much of each other post Hurricane Helen, and as we were pulled in a million different directions, and it was hard. Being married to a veteran and a service member is a lot of work, and she sees once again with my being deployed. So thank you, love, for your constant support and being a kind and compassionate human being. Again, my sincerest thanks to Veterans of Foreign Wars for this great honor. I can't wait to continue doing great work on behalf of this great organization when I get home. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Samantha, and you make sure you come home with all your original attachments.
That's what I was told.